Hi, Open Noters! Welcome to the Fort Collins Symphony's Open Notes podcast, where we enrich lives through classical music. I'm Norman Menzales, the Marketing and Community Engagement Director, and with me is my co-host, Alyssa.
Hi, I'm Alyssa Roggow, the Education and Patron Development Director. In this podcast, we'll look behind the scenes of the professional music world and explore why music is for everyone.
So, how was your weekend, Alyssa?
Oh, it was really good. I have some family visiting from out of town, so we've been running around and seeing the sights of Fort Collins. How was your weekend, Norman?
It was good. I did not have as much time to go see all of Fort Collins since we had a string quartet from the symphony performing at Fort Collins Comic-Con. They played a bunch of musical themes from movies and video games and television shows, and I think it was pretty well received. So yeah, that was what I did.
Excellent. And I hear you got to dress up as well.
I did. I dressed up as Ash Ketchum from Pokemon. It was fun. I had a good time.
Great. Well, for those of you who don't know, Norman is a master of costumes. So if you ever get a chance to see him dressed up, you should do it.
Well, you're very kind. I mean, I really enjoy getting dressed up, but yeah, at the same time, I like being dressed down as well in the comfort of my home. So, Alyssa, why are we here today?
Well, we are starting a podcast, and Norman and I have been performing together for years, and we've discovered that some of our best musical conversations happen off the stage. So we wanted to invite a broader audience into those conversations and just thought you might want to join us.
Exactly. You know, people have been asking us, why are you guys actually doing this podcast? And, well, we're going to give you an inside scoop on the Fort Collins Symphony's 25-26 season called Voices of America, as well as share some quirky and interesting facts and take you deeper into the pieces of each of the concerts. Mm-hmm. So we've got a great lineup of guests for our future podcasts as well, including some of our Fort Collins Symphony musicians and community members.
Yes, we're very excited. Since we're coming up on the 250th birthday of the U.S. in 2026, you'll hear lots of music that celebrates the beauty and variety of our cultural landscape. Today in this episode, we'll give you a sneak peek into the music of the season, and we'll highlight the American piece on each program. We've got a total of 5 signature concerts, a Halloween Pops concert, a Springs Pops concert, and then the family concert this season, for a total of 7 concerts.
All right.
Well, 8 family concert. Math.
It's okay. But let's just go ahead and jump right in then.
Sure.
So our first signature concert is entitled Passages Through Music and Migration on October 4th with music by Jessie Montgomery, Mozart's 4th Horn Concerto, played by our very own Fort Collins Symphony principal horn player, Ben Schaefer, as well as Jean Sibelius's epic Symphony No. 1 to close out the program.
Yeah, what a fun concert. The American work on this piece is Passages by Jessie Montgomery. And Jessie writes of this work that Passages offers a moving reflection on the fortitude of the human spirit created in recognition of the 400th anniversary of the arrival of enslaved Africans to Virginia in 1619.
Ooh, that was a mouthful. You know, I've never played any of her music before. Have you, Alyssa?
Yes, I have actually. So I am a violist and I love to play string quartets, and I played her piece called Strum in a string quartet setting. I've also played it in a small chamber ensemble, so, you know, more string players than just 4. And both versions are really fun. They're really full of just rhythmic energy, liveliness, lots of pizzicato, so it's sort of lots of colors as well in the music. So I'm really excited because Passages is actually originally with a ballet. It was written in collaboration with a ballet company. So I'll be curious to see how her, you know, rhythmic and sort of colorful musical writing connects with dance and how that translates into the music that she wrote.
Yeah, you know, I love just music written for dance. I think a lot of it stems from the fact that growing up as a kid, my sister took dance class and was into ballet, but then, you know, all the other dance forms as well. I just feel like, you know, if it's anything like what I've heard from Jessie Montgomery, there's a really nice flow that typically is in her writing. So I'm really excited too to see how that translates.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, now moving on to something totally different, going to our Halloween Pops, which is also going to be in October. It's called Hauntings, Melodies of Mystery on October 23rd. where I think this experience is going to be just totally different than going to any of our signature concerts. Partly because we have people who are also going to be dressed up as in costumes as well.
Yay! You'll get to see Norman dressed up.
Yes, yes.
Do you know anything about this program?
Actually, I know that there is a mix of classical pieces, but more importantly, we're doing a performance with Babalu Theater, which is another nonprofit company that does theater here in Fort Collins. And they're using an original script that I helped give inspiration to.
How exciting.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I think in terms of the music, there's going to be a nice mix. Obviously some spooky-esque type of music. Yeah, I'm just really excited to see how we're going to mix all of these classical tunes, but then also some pop tunes as well in there to create the show and production. Laura Jones, who's the CSU emeritus professor in theater from Colorado State, she's been working on this script, and I've had a couple of instances where I've gone to sit down and see what she's doing, and all I can tell you is that it should be a really fun program that features many of the musicians in the orchestra as this mystery unfolds. So you just have to come and check it out.
Yeah, we don't want to spoil the mystery now.
Exactly.
So the next signature concert after the Halloween Pops is Echoes of Memory and Identity, and this will be on November 8th. This concert features Barber's Knoxville, Summer of 1915, sung by soprano Stephanie Anduri. They will also have Mendelssohn's Italian Symphony and Ginastera's Variaciones Concertante. Samuel Barber is our featured American composer for this concert, and I suspect many of you will recognize his lush romantic sound from his piece Adagio for Strings. And that same lushness definitely makes an appearance in Knoxville, Summer of 1915. Norman, I know you've played this piece recently, the Knoxville. What was that experience like?
Yeah, well, the piece is based on a passage from the novel A Death in the Family by James Agee, and it very much reflects on the fleeting innocence of childhood and the nostalgia of a summer evening in Tennessee. It really shows how our identities are shaped by the pieces we come from. And I had the great fortune last season to actually perform this piece in Tennessee. I had a one-year contract performing as principal flute with the Chattanooga Symphony, and we got to do it down there, and I had a great time. I just think that the music of Barber, particularly in this piece, he does a really nice job of letting the musical accompaniment support the text. And so just listening to it just feels so calming, and very much like this description about fleeting innocence and just reflecting on that. You can definitely hear that when you listen to this piece.
Wonderful. So our next concert after that is the Friends of the Symphony Family Concert, Adventures in Sound and Imagination. This will be on Sunday, January 18th in 2026. This will feature Prokofiev's Peter and the Wolf, as well as Gregory Smith's orchestra games.
Yeah, I love Greg's work. I've actually had the great fortune of getting to chat with him and meet with him. We did one of his works last year as well, and in the process of just trying to get excitement and advertising for that concert, I asked Greg to send me some videos that we could put on our socials, and he did. And if you want to check out our socials at Fort Collins Symphony on Instagram, and then same thing on Facebook, if you scroll back to last January, you'll be able to see some of those fun little postings that Greg was able to do.
Yeah, the kids really loved it when they got to see him perform. So.
Yeah. So speaking of Greg, what should families expect in terms of the experience, Alyssa?
Well, so this concert is part of one of our educational programs. So it's really designed to be a welcoming experience for families and young kids in particular. The Peter and the Wolf is a collaboration with Canyon Concert Ballet. So we'll have dancers who get to sort of act out the story of Peter and the Wolf. Kids really love it. It's so fun to see them in costumes. It's just scary enough that, it's really engaging, but nothing terrible happens. And, we have fun events out in the lobby before the concert takes place. So it's just a really great time to bring little ones. Peter and the Wolf is a classic piece that people have been performing for many, many years. And we've had a lot of feedback that both grandparents and parents, their first memory of the symphony was actually with Peter and the Wolf. So being able to bring their grandkids and children and share that experience of the Peter and the Wolf at the symphony with them is a really special sort of multi-generational day. So.
Yeah, and I think too, ending the program with Greg's orchestra games should be really fun because that particular piece will feature different sections of the orchestra as they compete in these orchestra games, and that obviously,
which I have to say, this is based on the Olympics, not the Hunger Games. So.
yes. So no one is going to die.
Yeah,
that's the important
family concert is safe.
Yes. So let's move on to our signature concert 3 now that we're in the middle of our season. This concert is entitled Spotlights in Drama and Virtuosity, which will be on February 7th. It will feature a world premiere of Alex Lamott's Land of Open Skies, who Alex was the composer competition winner from this past year. We put out this little competition, and we had some really wonderful entries. But Alex's stood out for all the right reasons that we wanted to, and we are very excited to include him on this. In addition to Alex, we will have our guest artist, Brian Wallach, who is a piano professor at Colorado State University, performing Liszt's Piano Concerto No. 2, as well as the very ominous Totentanz. And then after that, we'll have an intermission, as well as the pièce de résistance, Igor Stravinsky's Petrushka, which is personally one of my favorites.
I can hear your excitement to play it in your
I know.
voice.
I'm so excited. I mean, there's a really great flute part, but, all of the various instruments in the orchestra are featured. And I think just in general, Stravinsky's music is so colorful, and I just love it.
Absolutely, yes. I'm also excited about Alex's piece because it's world premiere and we get to hear it for the first time, but also because it just does a great job of capturing the vast beauty and wild spirit of the American West. Alex is a violist, fellow violist, which, by the way, I have to put in a plug. All the best composers are violists. Bach played viola, Mozart played viola, Beethoven played viola, Dvorak played viola. So, the list goes on. But Alex is a violist. He graduated from CU Boulder, and he submitted this piece to us as part of our composition competition. And we're really excited to be able to present it and to give him the opportunity to have his music be heard.
Absolutely. Well, that takes us then to Signature Concert 4. And this one is called Vibrations from Nature and Tradition, which will be on March 7th and 8th. Now, this is a concert where this is our first time that we're also adding a matinee, and we're kind of testing this out since we've been doing pretty well with our concerts the last couple of years. And so we wanted to see if, this might reach out to people who may not be able to go on a Saturday night and would like to do something a little bit earlier on a Sunday. So this program includes Joan Tower's Chamber Dance, Kevin Putz's Marimba Concerto featuring Ji Soo Jung, and then Beethoven's wonderful Symphony No. 4, which again has some very beautiful melodies and actually has a flute excerpt there in the second movement. So I'm personally very excited. I feel like this upcoming season just has a lot of really good flute parts.
Yes. Well, so this program actually has 2 American pieces on it, both the Kevin Putz Marimba Concerto and Joan Tower's Chamber Dance. Chamber Dance is all about interacting and dancing with one another, sort of in the way that smaller chamber groups do. I love to play chamber music, which basically, chamber music, for those of you who don't know, is a small ensemble. It doesn't have a conductor. Generally, it's like one player on a part, 1 or 2 players on a part, which Norman is used to playing flute, but as a violist, generally we have larger string sections. So chamber music scales that down, and you really get to be involved in the music making in a different way. And that's what this Chamber Dance by Joan Tower really explores. So, and Norman, I know you've played the Putz recently.
Yes, I actually had the great opportunity to perform it with Wyoming Symphony up in Casper. And before I talk about that experience, a little bit about the Putz Marimba Concerto. It was commissioned by Makoto Nakura and the Vermont Symphony Orchestra for a tour around the orchestra's home state. In recent years, Jisoo Jung has really championed this concerto,
Mhm.
and the Marimba Concerto is inspired by two of Mozart's piano concertos. So, aside from his marimba concerto, he's written some other beautiful opera music, such as The Hours, which starred sopranos Renee Fleming, Kelly O'Hara, and even mezzo soprano Joyce DiDonato, who I just have to say, as a side plug, I am obsessed with her masterclass videos because she just really gets into the music and makes it applicable when she's describing the music to inspire all musicians, not just vocalists. So definitely check out some
Wonderful.
of her masterclass videos. But going
For
back
sure.
to Putz Marimba Concerto, I actually got to perform this with Jisoo Jung up in
Oh.
Wyoming. And, she's just so cool when she performs this concerto because she makes it look so effortless. And I think that's usually a really good sign and indicator of just a musician that is just one with the music. Like they're not
Totally.
struggling or thinking about it too hard, they're just going.
They're just going, and especially with something like the marimba, where it's so physically involved. To you've got
Right.
your mallets and your arms are going and
Well, I mean,
all that.
it's so rhythmic, of course, but like, that kind of rhythmic drive and intensity absolutely goes into the orchestra parts as well. And I mean, I can
Mm.
just remember there's one section, I think it was in the second movement, where there's a lot of very fast trading off between the marimba and the flute section. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like this is so exciting, but like also very nerve wracking because it's like a page of this
Oh
in the
wow,
part.
yeah.
So concentration is very much key.
Yes, totally. Well, after that concert with Jisoo Jung and the Marimba Concerto, we have our Spring Pops concert on April 17th and 18th. This is another concert that will have an afternoon matinee. And we're really excited about this one because it's going to feature a film, a silent film by Charlie Chaplin, Gold Rush. So we will get to, as an orchestra, perform the musical score while the film is playing on a screen behind us. And this film is from 1925, and it follows a prospector as he braves the harsh Yukon wilderness in search of gold and love.
Yes. Well, Alyssa, the two of us had an opportunity to do some of Charlie Chaplin's music up
Mm-hmm.
in Montana when we were still living there and playing with Great Falls Symphony. So,
Absolutely.
did you have any memorable moments about playing in the orchestra as the audience is watching a film above you?
I think what I love most and what was most memorable is the way that the music participated in the storytelling. Just, something would happen, like, the flute player or the piccolo player or percussionist would have some little, like, melody or a fragment of something, and people would laugh. Like what had just happened on stage was very much in line with the action, and being part of the story in that way is just really special.
Right. Yeah. I also just remember thinking when we played in some of these concerts, whenever I'd hear the audience laugh, I'd automatically just want to know like what just happened on the
Yeah,
screen. Like it's
exactly.
so unfair that we don't get little TVs to watch
I
what's
know,
going
yeah.
on the screen as we're playing. But
And so that's a little bit like playing in an opera pit too. You want to see what's going on up on stage, and you're
yes,
just kind of down in the dark. But it's fun to be part of something so much bigger than just the music. So
exactly. Well, nonetheless, I think that our audiences who come to this concert are just going to have a really good time.
yes, absolutely. So our final concert after the Charlie Chaplin film is a signature concert 5, Rhythms in Diversity and Energy. And this will feature Torquay's Run, clarinetist Wesley Ferreira performing Freiberg's Latin American Chronicles, and then Copland's Symphony Number 3. This concert will take place on May 2nd, and it really highlights the richness of American music across the board. Every piece on this concert is written by an American composer, and it really offers a different perspective. We've got the driving power of the Torquay, the rhythmic intensity in the Freiberg, lyrical storytelling, and sweeping symphonic power of the Copland. It's really a great conclusion to the season.
Yes, and a little fun tidbit about Copeland as it relates to actually our Spring Pops concert was that aside from being a talented composer for orchestral music, he was also very talented in writing film scores.
Mm-hmm.
So if you know of Mice and Men or Our Town or North Star or The Heiress, he has a lot of his music included in those films. So yeah, I just think showing the breadth of what American composers have done and celebrating it in this season is going to be really exciting. I think when we were doing the planning for this season, the Copland Symphony No. 3 was like the first thing that our artistic music director and artistic advisory committee had said we have to play. Totally. And so, what better way to end a season than with this epic piece.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of epic, there's a theme towards the end of the Copland Symphony No. 3 that actually shows up in Christopher Reeve's Superman film.
Oh yeah.
I don't watch a lot of movies, but I have watched that one. I grew up on that one, and so yeah, it's a really just a really iconic moment in that symphony, and it's cool to see how sort of when we think of an iconic American composer, generally Copland is kind of at the top of the list. And so being able to end the season with his music, but then also kind of reflect on the influence that it's had on other American composers on this season, I think is a really special way to end the season.
Yes, I agree. And the funny thing is I think that I know what you're going to be thinking about when that quote from Fanfare for the Common Man shows up at the end of the season. I'm just like, okay, Alyssa's going to be thinking Superman.
Yep, I'll be having flashbacks to eating popcorn on the floor in the basement. So that'll be, that's where my brain is.
Well, it sounds like this season has a good bit of everything. So
it really does, and some great flute melodies.
I know. I'm really excited. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Even though we're ending this episode of the podcast, I just have to reiterate that I'm super excited to just talk with all the guest artists and people that we'll have on this podcast this season.
Yeah. And we're so excited also to be able to hear, what you want to be learning about. If there's somebody that you're wanting us to talk to, or that you're a topic that you're curious about, something musically related that you've been wondering about, this is very much a conversation between musicians and admin and our community of audience members. So please feel free to reach out to us.
Yes, we are so excited to share this season with all of you, and hopefully we will see you at the symphony. Thanks for tuning in to the Open Notes podcast. We appreciate your support for the arts. We'd love to know what you want to know, so send your questions and suggestions to podcast@fcsymphony.org.
For more information on the Fort Collins Symphony, visit our website at fcsymphony.org. We can't wait to hear from you. Until next time.
Bye.